everyone. How are you today? This beautiful Friday. We have an amazing lineup of speakers, and we are so pleased to have you all with us for this 24-hour conference, which is going backwards around the world, visiting at least 12 different countries, and we're being live streamed as well. And I'd like to invite Samira to say a few words also.
Thank you, Claire. Welcome, everybody. Such a nice experience with all these diverse backgrounds. It's really fun to see how this all came into reality, Claire, right? 2 weeks of intensive work. Let's see how this journey will add up to our experience as coaches. Thank you.
So what we're going to do to start with is share the overview of the sessions over the next 24 hours so that you can see what you want to dip into and see which ones really suit you. And here we have the sessions for the first day are as follows. I'm speaking about reflective practice, something that's important for coaches, supervisors, and I'd say every leader. And of course, we're all leaders of our lives, of our families, of our communities. And then we move into Samira's presentation on collective performance. And I know that will be a fabulous interactive session because she always delivers in an engaging style. We then move into enabling men to flourish. So I had a fabulous chat with Andrew earlier in the week, and this session uncovers things that sometimes we don't always think about. There's a lot of focus on gender and equality and women. So we felt this session was important as well to also see things from the other side. And Andrew does a lot of work enabling men to achieve their potential and be happy at the same time and healthy. We then move into a fabulous session with an amazing speaker, Professor Tristram Hooley, who has been lecturing for many, many years. He has so many referred journal articles on the area of social injustice and career as a specific focus. So looking forward to that session. We then have 4 supervisors in different locations talking about the way that EDI shows up in coaching and supervision sessions. This will also include a reflective journey for yourselves as participants, as well as a live demonstration of supervision that one of us will dip into and the others will supervise an issue or topic around EDI. Then we're moving into an exciting session where VR can be used in coaching and supervision. It can also be used as a fabulous team discovery and learning tool. Now, for this session, do look at the registration information we sent you. You can sit here and observe on Zoom, and if you just go through the 2-minute how to use, you can actually, you don't need a VR, you can actually join in the session live. The link will be shared in the chat, and you can take part in the VR session. And then we have the fabulous Sam Collins, OBE, who was from the UK, now lives in the west coast of the US. And she is talking about women and how every woman can create change. Passionate speaker on this particular subject and has devoted her life to enabling and empowering women. So looking forward to that one. Then we have the amazing Will, who is in Saudi Arabia, and he's talking about inclusivity and dialogue and interviews and the ways we can tap into exploring the biases that we have so that we can all be in interviews on either side of the table in a way that really supports the organisation and the individuals. And then as the day goes on, we will have Steve Royston, another amazing, passionate and extremely knowledgeable speaker, who'll be talking about a way we can become immune to ageism together. Then we move into respect in the workplace with Kurt, who's in the US, and he'll be sharing with us the way organizations that he's worked with their values, advocate respect for all with the DEI agenda. And then at the end of the day, we have Juan in Mexico. And I'm not the best at pronouncing names, of course, with my English accent. We're talking there about the experiences he's had in organizations. He's a TED speaker. He's worked in some very big companies, and he'll be sharing a lot about the process, things we can do, so we can leave that session with actionable tasks that we can then take into the places where we work to support inclusion. So that is the roundup of day one. I'll just briefly share day two so you've got the full picture. So on day two, another group of amazing speakers. We start with Lawrence, who's in Pakistan, and he's talking about the curriculum in education and the way equality, diversity, inclusion and belonging can help everyone to thrive. We then move into something close to my heart. Jose, who is doing the live stream, and his fabulous team of volunteers in the disability charity in the Philippines. And we will hear real live stories from people with disabilities. We then move into Jean-François Cusson, and he'll be talking about reinventing the way we are, an artistry, a creative and nourishing environment for us all to flourish. And we have in Bahrain, Mary Justine Todd talking about understanding violence against women and the way it impacts everybody. Such an important topic. We move into Mohammed Shukri, another fabulous award-winning speaker, who will be talking about storytelling and the way this can uncover so much for everyone, for us to connect with ourselves and others, to understand more through this communication method to support equality, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then we move to the amazing Iman. And Iman, again, a TED speaker, he will be talking about creating a meaningful life for all humanity. And he will be bringing in his community from Iran, but also Farsi speakers from around the world who will be talking about cultivating small from big. And that takes us 24 hours later, this time tomorrow, myself and my fabulous colleague Samira will be closing the session with, so what have we learned? What now? What's next? What do we commit to taking forward into our lives in terms of equality, diversity, and inclusion? So, just before we start, would anyone like to make any comments in the chat? Any questions before we get going? And take your, take mute off, say anything you wish before we start.
Sounds great. Thank you.
It's an amazing lineup, isn't it? And all the people involved, from the branding unisono, an award-winning branding consultancy, our fabulous team, Janie and Leah, Samira, our co-faculty, and all the speakers have volunteered their time, which is amazing. So I'm going to begin with some work around reflective practice. And here we go. So this session will be about 20 minutes and it will be interactive. What I ask for you to start with is just to close your eyes. Be aware of your breath. Be aware of your environment. Be aware of beyond the room you are in. Go beyond the building and the town or city. Move further into the country that you are in right now. And just connect with the equality that's in place and what more needs to be there. Equity in terms of valuing everyone's contributions, and also in terms of a way of supporting others' needs so we all flourish. Think about the diversity of the country you are in. Think about those who belong. And think about times where you felt that you don't belong in any area of your life. Go further afield into the continent where you are and tap into the energy there. Similarities and differences into the country that you're in compared to other places in that continent. And then zoom out, take a meta view of the world and think of all the people around the globe on this call here who clearly care and want positive, transformational, impactful change in terms of equality, diversity, and inclusion. Zoom out into the universe and see from that perspective our little globe, our world. What comes up for you now? Seeing the world from that perspective. What works, what doesn't in terms of EDI. Be aware somatically what's going on for you in your body when you think of parts of the world and the different energy in terms of EDI in those different locations. Just sit with this for a few seconds. Be aware of that bodily experience and how powerful it is, where it is. And explore a little bit around what that means to you. And then come back with us now through the universe, into the world, into your continent, into your country, into your area in that country, into your space, into your building, into your room. And when you're ready, open your eyes into this Zoom call. And I invite you to write a few words in the chat box about your thoughts, feelings, experiences of that visualization. What's going on for you? Just read through and be aware of what others are experiencing. And we have all of this to think about and more. So where I want to take you now is a little inquiry around what is reflective practice. So think of times that you reflect on yourself. How many times in the day do you think about who you are, what you did, what could be better, what you can tweak, how you are with your family and colleagues, where the strategy for your life is going? Reflective practice is such an amazing, powerful tool for professionals and for anyone. If we reflect in the moment and also in retrospect, we can learn so much. So be aware of the best place, time, location, environment for you to really tap into your reflective self at your best. Sometimes it's when driving home from the office. Other times it's making the time to journal. For some people, it's a commitment to a morning ritual of meditation. Do you reflect? How often do you reflect? What are the patterns that come up in your reflection? So what I'd like now is for you to think about, what do you experience when you reflect? So my background was actually a teacher, and reflective practice became even more impactful to me when doing my master's degree, because it was in there as the way we do things around here. It enables us to be so much more conscious of the way we are, how we're showing up, the impact we want to create. And I've taken that then forward into my systemic team coaching and executive coaching work. And personally, I keep a journal. I keep a journal of no names, no context, what was going on for me, where parallels were at play, and also ways that I may act differently or do different things in future sessions with particular clients. And then tying up all those bits and looking at the big picture. What are the habits that are okay and I want to strengthen? And what are the habits that I want to actually shift to create even more impact? Now, what's the link here to EDI? So we all work to try our best. And sometimes for me, things that happen, reactions that I have, are things like conversations around equality, diversity, and inclusion. And I've reflected many times about a feeling of, am I using the right politically correct word? Is this an okay conversation in this context? Can I, as a practitioner, go deeper into fierce courage to really enable the person I'm working with to challenge their thoughts, their ideology, and to even tap into unconscious biases? So what are the benefits of reflection? One of the main benefits is the fact that we learn so much about ourselves. We learn about ourselves, and of course, we learn about others. And as leaders, this is so important. Shared leadership, there's so much talk about it now, especially in teams, and especially at this time. And to learn about team as individuals. What are their strengths and development areas? And what are the strengths and development areas at team level? But even more than that, connecting on a human level enables people to really work together more effectively. And that's not always nice. Positive disruption and challenge are also extremely beneficial for progress. And this is a curious and interesting slide. So we're going to start at the right. Samira, my colleague, she is the mind mapping queen, always drawing mind maps after programs in terms of ways we can improve, after sessions in terms of reflection on the learning. Mind mapping is a way to not just brainstorm and blurt, but to order thought. It's a fabulous tool for reflection. Other people prefer to write. And write, it can take many forms. It can be in bullets, it can be narrative. You can leave spaces to meta-reflect, reflect on the way that you're writing. And sometimes people say, and I want to reflect, and there's a blank page in front of me. The advice is just start. Even writing, I don't know what to reflect on right now, or I'm going to reflect. That starts the pen moving, and honestly, the cortisol reduces in the brain, and the creative, more positive hormones start to flow, and so do the words. Another way to reflect is by drawing and symbols, or even using physical symbols, and it can be done online so easily as well. Using constellations, the positions of people in a particular situation, and what's the challenge for this person and the pressure points here, and what way are we together working on inclusion, and where is that person facing their focus, and where does the focus need to be, and what way are we diverse, and what more needs to be done in this organisation, this charity or this community to enable diversity to be even more present and not just lip service, so that people really belong. Another way to reflect is together. Reflect individually and then together, and even more juicy thoughts flow. And then another way is to use anything from blue tack to clay, and to just play and be with whatever medium you prefer to work with, and see what comes from that playing with, and talk through the reflection. Of course, we can reflect on our own, and working with a coach or supervisor, or someone who is below you, above you, or beside you in an organisation, and sharing the reflection can take things even deeper, as they may challenge you, they may question you. In a supervisory role, they may add to your thoughts to take the thoughts to a whole new level. So have a think now, what way do you reflect? Here's just 4 or 5 different ideas. What way have you not tried, and what might you try now to support your reflections even more? There's many different models of reflection. So here's just one from Gribbs in 1988. And we talk about here, what's happening, what's going on? What are we thinking, feeling? I'd add to that, what are we experiencing, which makes it an even more open question. What was good about this experience? What was bad? What sense are you making of the situation? What's apparent from intuition? What conclusions can be made? And then, if this happened again, what would you do the same? What would you do differently? And of course, this isn't linear. You may go backwards and forwards into the different places. And then, this is one model that we use for reflection. So having an absolute blank page A pure reflection in terms of whatever comes out is absolutely fine and meant to come is one way. Another way is, what results do I specifically want to gain from this reflection? What skills, knowledge, or behaviors have I experienced during this particular reflection focus and also on the reflection topic? What ways am I reflecting? Where am I now in this reflection? Where do I want to be? And what ways has this reflection supported me in that transition? What action will I take in future for even more impact in terms of the work I am doing and also who I am being in the world? And then at the bottom there, we've got a systemic focus. What is the impact of this reflection on the people around me, my family community, my colleagues, the field that I'm working in? What does my system need from me to enable further positive transformational change to take place in terms of my work, my presence, and EDI? Now, I love this one. Driscoll talks about what. What's going on here? What did I learn? So what? So if we learn it and we put it in the bottom drawer, just like sometimes when we've attended a course and it's like, never to see the light of day again. So what? There's one option. So what if I keep this alive? I use a way of anchoring the learning. I consciously ensure that I use the learning going forward. And then what if? What if I share this reflection with others? What if I ask them about their reflections on the same session, the same situation, the same context? Because other people's reflections are never the same. And then even further, now what? Where am I now compared to when I started this reflection? I love this picture because we see so much, and yet, especially in the last 6 to 9 months, the horizons are getting closer. With this new normal, the future and strategy is nearer. So what is beyond that? The work of the fabulous professors at MIT in terms of theory U, sensing, sifting, focusing and understanding, and what's needed beyond that horizon, and what way can we together collectively impact that? Food for thought. So here is an absolute scatter of different areas of EDI, in no particular order. And for some people, gender and disability, culture, sexual orientation and age may be things that for them seem to jump out as the ones they tend to focus on. And it may be religion, identity or race that is not someone's go-to preference in terms of reading around EDI for one and discussing. And then over there, we've got social class, the way people live their life and politics. So just look at this and see which ones stick out to you as the areas that you feel pretty confident about in terms of your skills, knowledge and behaviours. And have a think about the areas that you want to dive deeper into. You need to explore more about. Whether it's conversations, research, reading, or any other ways that we learn, including reflection. And what's behind this? What part of critical incidents or significant others or upbringing has actually impacted the areas that you tend to focus on? It's a curious question. And what's next for you as a specific focus to grow your body of knowledge and learning? So yes, that's a lot. Drawing on the work of Henley Business School with Peter Hawkins, Eve Turner and Jonathan Passmore, who have some amazing reflective questions called the Henley 8. I invite you again to close your eyes and to think of a time where you were in a situation where equality, equity, diversity, inclusion, belonging, or any other word that resonates for you, was taking place in real life. You may have been an observer, you may have been right in there in the conversation. It may have shown up in your leadership work or your coaching or your supervisory work. So close your eyes and connect with that moment. Verbally or non-verbally, what way did you react cognitively, philosophically, emotionally, somatically in your body, and even behaviorally in this particular situation? And if you're someone who wishes to reflect by drawing or writing, feel free to do so. And then step back. I encourage you to actually lean back for this. Open up your arms wide and view this from a more meta view. If you were writing the headlines for this, what would the headlines say in short, absolute bullet points? What are the headlines? Who would those headlines resonate with? What intentions did you consciously have in this engagement or this observation? If you were acting, was it habit or reflex? Or did you go into your level 1 in your mind to decide consciously what action or words or tone and pitch of voice you chose to use in that situation? What way did yourself impact and add to the energy in this situation? And this may have been a positive or not so positive experience for you. And what is this all telling you about yourself, your beliefs and your values, and the way you show up in the world? And think about the reflection so far. What's the biggest learning so far in this reflection? And if this experience was a dance or a character in a movie, what are the names of the players? What's the names of the dance? What energy is in between those players? What energy is in the wider system in terms of this topic? And if there was a fly on the wall, what would they say about you? What are your pressure points or personal triggers in terms of this topic? And a fabulous question. What's not being said right now in this situation? And again, further afield. And then finally, what way will this reflection impact your future practice? What do you commit to following this reflection right now? And by committing to that, what are you saying yes to? And what are you saying no to? And what way does this commitment resonate with your values and your life purpose? Why you were put on this earth at this time? There's a thought for a Friday. And I'd like to now ask a few people if they would like to share a little bit about what they've reflected on. And you can share as much or as little as you wish. Even if you just share the summary of the learning, that's absolutely perfect. Who would like to share? Gardening helps me reflect. I love it. Images, drawing cards, mind maps. If you want to take your mute off and share to us all, that's absolutely fine as well.
Hello.
Hi, Sue.
I'm a bit blown away by the depth of the questions you've asked us. So my learning is just a realization of how deep reflection can go. And I love all those questions drawing us out to take a wider view and then pulling us back in. So that's my reflections on what you've just done. It was very powerful. Thank you.
Thank you. And of course, we will share the slides afterwards so you can dig into those questions even more in your own time. Thank you, Sue. Anyone else like to share? So reflection, just like any muscle, we can practice it. And when we reflect collectively, I just love this picture with all the colours, but there's flow and ease. And of course, there's times we want to dip out and reflect on our own. The more dialogue, open, honest, transparent, and frank dialogue that takes place around equality, diversity, and inclusion, the more collective understanding and impact we will all create for the world. And reflection is cyclical. It goes round and round, and it doesn't stop at 11 o'clock because the hour's over. It carries on in our minds. We may be out swimming or running or any other activity, and some eureka light bulb moment happens that takes that reflection even deeper And we have these pointers to help us with reflection. So what we've got here is the 7 C's of critical learning. Be curious and creative. Create opportunities for reflection. And work with communities of practice to learn together. Be brave and bold would be my advice there too. Go vulnerable, because that's where the best learning takes place. And then consciously capture that learning in a way that it can be shared with others through articles, webinars, etc. Cultivate that knowledge, keep adding to it, keep it alive, and capitalize on the learning by committing to actions. This one I love. Catapult the learning forward into the future. So a reflection is useful, and when we use it in future practice, that is the beauty, that is the power. And then celebrate on our own and with others, the small steps and the giant leaps. If we keep all, like a ripple effect, work to grow our awareness, that has an impact on those around us too. So reflecting in retrospect after an event helps us then to realign, to reframe, to react, and then choose to consciously act with the impact and intention we want to create for the future. Our intention creates our reality. And these are the words that I've got for you today. Would anyone like to share anything else that they're taking away from this presentation? Joseph, and welcome.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you for a powerful presentation. It's curiosity and openness that I find are keys to unlocking real learning that then causes behavior change. I mean, it said you learn actually when your behavior changes. It's not when the information gets in your head, but when your behavior changes. So yes, I think it's openness and curiosity, because without real curiosity, it will remain at a particular level.
I agree entirely. And taking that even further, it's also about vulnerability. And what if we all gave ourselves and others permission to make mistakes? If I say the wrong thing with compassion, I was trying my best in that situation. And if it came from the right place, we can forgive each other and then act differently because of our new knowledge in future situations. Thank you, Joseph. Anyone else wish to add? So what's your biggest takeaway in terms of the way you reflect in the past, what you've done now, and the way you may choose or will choose to reflect in the future?
You know, Claire, I always like the idea of reflection. You know, I actually created tools for reflection, which is called I Reflect, right? And in reflection, I also encourage people, whether they are the trainees, coaches, or even fellow coaches, to use the way their brain think to reflect. i.e., if your brain is more likely to be like the way I think more into colors, like images. I wonder if that's clear. Let me just remove that. Yep. So you do the images, colorful, if that works for you. And I've seen people who can reflect using mind maps, so they're more into details. And I've seen people reflect using songs, movies, and that was interesting to see, right? So if I can give credit to anything that brought sanity into my life recently with what happened the last 7 months, I would say the practice of continuous reflection will be number one, definitely.
Thank you. And there's layers and layers. Anyone else like to share? So I encourage you to grab something, whether it is the clay that we all have handy on our desk, the colours, the paper, and to reflect throughout these sessions. Sometimes we just write one word. Sometimes it's a drawing that may not have meaning at that particular point, or shapes or symbols. And go back on this in a day, in a week, in a month, and see what else comes up for you, and see what else has shifted in your thinking and the way you are in the world, especially around equality, diversity, and inclusion. And to end with some fabulous words from an amazing musical, Cats. The moments of happiness, we have the experience, but miss the meaning. How many times are we there? Life's frenetic, things are busy, the experience takes place. I'm thinking also of the amount of times people are videoing and taking pictures on their cameras instead of being in that moment, or getting curious to understand things from another's perspective, which is so important in EDI. So, leaving you with the moments of happiness, we had the experience. Let's create the meaning. Thank you. So we now have